Mr. Thompson angrily left his crying wife and pregnant daughters, determined to confront the pastor. He stormed out of the house, got into his car, and sped to the church. As he arrived at the church, he could see the pastor preaching on the altar. The congregation was listening attentively. Mr. Thompson burst into the church, his face red with rage. He stomped up to the altar, his heavy footsteps echoing through the silent church. The pastor, caught off guard, looked up to see Mr. Thompson's angry face. Without a word, Mr. Thompson snatched the microphone from the pastor's hand. The congregation gasped in shock, sensing that something was terribly wrong. Mr. Thompson's voice boomed through the microphone, filling the church. "You hypocrite! You call yourself a man of God, but you're nothing but a deceitful, manipulative monster." Mr. Thompson's angry voice echoed throughout the church, leaving the congregation in stunned silence. The pastor, still trying to compose himself, attempted to reason with Mr. Thompson. "Are you aware that you are talking to a man of God?" the pastor asked, his voice trembling slightly. Mr. Thompson's response was scathing. "Man of God, my foot! If this is how all men of God are, then God himself should be ashamed of himself. You are a disgrace to all pastors worldwide." The congregation gasped in shock, covering their mouths and faces in shame. The pastor's face turned bright red with anger and embarrassment. "How dare you?" the pastor shouted, but Mr. Thompson cut him off. "You dare to impregnate my two beautiful daughters, using your nonsense preaching in church as a cover-up. You are a wolf in sheep's clothing, and I will make sure everyone knows about it." The church erupted into chaos, with some members shouting in agreement with Mr. Thompson, while others tried to defend the pastor. The scene was one of utter pandemonium. The workers rushed to the altar, holding Mr. Thompson back as he continued to rant and shout at the pastor. Others held the pastor back, trying to calm the situation. "Please, Mr. Thompson, calm down," one of the workers pleaded. "Respect the church, respect the congregation. Don't disgrace the pastor like this." But Mr. Thompson was beyond consolation. "You ungrateful pastor," he shouted. "Despite everything, you had the mind to deceive and spoil my children. You used the name of God to manipulate and bring evil into my family." The pastor, still defending himself, claimed he was innocent, but his words fell on deaf ears. Mr. Thompson assured him that he would sue him in court for using the name of God to manipulate and deceive his family. After a while, Mr. Thompson stormed out of the church, leaving the pastor and the workers in an awkward silence. The pastor walked back to his office followed by the workers. The workers turned to the pastor, asking him if the allegations were true. "Pastor, please tell us the truth," one of them asked. "Is what Mr. Thompson said true? We need to know so we can handle this situation properly." But the pastor remained silent, his face expressionless. The workers continued to press him for answers, but he refused to speak. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the pastor's anger boiled over. "Leave my office immediately," he shouted, his face red with rage. The workers quickly filed out of the office, whispering among themselves as they left the church. "If the pastor really did what Mr. Thompson said, then he's a fake pastor," one of them said. "All these years, he's been deceiving us," another worker added. "Who knows how many people he's slept with or gotten pregnant?" The workers continued to murmur among themselves as they left the church, their voices filled with shock, anger, and disappointment. The workers, determined to see justice served, teamed up and reported the pastor's actions to the general overseer. The general overseer was shocked and outraged by the news, and immediately took action. He called the pastor to his office and handed him a letter, informing him that he was to quit the church immediately. The pastor was shamefully pushed out of the church by the workers and members, his head hung low in shame. The general overseer then went to Mr. Thompson's house, accompanied by one of the workers. Mr. Thompson welcomed them warmly and invited them to sit in his living room. the general overseer explained the situation to Mr. Thompson, apologizing profusely for the pastor's actions. He begged Mr. Thompson not to take the matter to court, assuring him that the pastor had already been sacked and that the church was willing to do whatever it took to make things right, but Mr. Thompson was unmoved. "I won't allow my daughters to give birth to that man's children," he said firmly. The general overseer tried to reason with him, saying that the children were a gift from God and that nobody knew why God allowed such things to happen. He begged Mr. Thompson to consider letting the girls carry the pregnancy to term and give birth to the babies, but Mr. Thompson was resolute. "No," he said. "Even if I forgive the pastor, I will not allow my daughters to carry his children. I will find a way to fix this situation, no matter what it takes." After the general overseer left, Mr. Thompson's wife came into the living room, curiosity etched on her face. "What did the general overseer want?" she asked. Mr. Thompson sighed, explaining the entire conversation to his wife. He told her about the general overseer's apology, the pastor's dismissal from the church, and the request to let the girls carry the pregnancy to term. Mrs. Thompson's expression turned from curiosity to outrage. "God forbid," she exclaimed. "Over my dead body will I allow my children to give birth to that useless and fake pastor's child. We abort the pregnancy." Mr. Thompson raised an eyebrow. "Abort the pregnancy?" he asked. Mrs. Thompson nodded firmly. "Yes, of course. I'll take them to the hospital, and the pregnancy will be removed." "They can't bear children at their tender age." Mr. Thompson hesitated, unsure if abortion was the right solution. "If you'd listen to me, maybe we should consider what the general overseer said and let the girls have the babies," but Mrs. Thompson was resolute. "No, over my dead body will I sit in my home and allow my children to carry that fake pastor's child." Mr. Thompson sighed, knowing his wife's mind was made up. "Okay, if you insist, maybe we should tell the girls and see if they agree to the abortion. If they say no, they'll have to bear the children." That night, they called Clara and Rita into their bedroom, their faces stern and worried. Mrs. Thompson spoke up first, her voice firm but laced with concern. "My dear daughters, what was the reason why you did what you did with the pastor?" she asked, her eyes narrowing. Clara and Rita kept quiet, unsure of how to respond. Their mother's anger was palpable, and they knew they had to tread carefully. "Answer me before I unleash my anger on you both," she warned, her voice rising. Clara finally spoke up, her voice trembling. "Mommy, Daddy, you people never allowed us to live our lives the way we wanted. You always made sure we were in church, at home, or in school. You never let us associate with our fellow classmates or mingle with people and live a free life." Mrs. Thompson's expression turned incredulous. "Is that the reason why you opened your legs to the pastor? How did the pastor even manage to get you both pregnant?" Clara took a deep breath before responding. "Mommy, we bribed the pastor to cover us up whenever we went to parties. But at a time, he said he needed our bodies too, because the money we gave him wasn't enough." Mrs. Thompson's eyes widened in shock, her hand covering her mouth. "Okay, whatever," she said finally. "All I know is that you both are going to remove those things you have in your stomach." Clara and Rita exchanged a surprised glance. "Remove what, Mommy? Are you actually encouraging us to have an abortion?" Clara asked. Mrs. Thompson's expression turned stern. "Yes, of course. Do you want to give birth in my house? Do you want to bring shame upon our family? You will go to the hospital first thing tomorrow morning to remove those things." Rita spoke up, her voice laced with concern. "But Mommy, I thought we were devoted Christians. Why are you encouraging us to have an abortion?" Mrs. Thompson's face turned red with anger as she shouted at her daughters. "Shut up, you stupid girls! Before I shut your mouths for you. Do you remember that you were devoted Christians when you went and opened your legs to different kinds of men, to the extent that you did it with the pastor? Rita spoke up, her voice firm. Being devoted Christians or not, what I have to say is that I'm not going to do any abortion. I've heard of many people who have died from abortion, and there's nothing that will push me to do it. I'll rather carry this pregnancy in shame and give birth to the baby than go for an abortion and lose my life. Her mother's face twisted in anger. You must, whether you like it or not. But their father intervened, his voice calm. No, if she says she doesn't want to do it, let her be. Clara spoke up, her voice hesitant. Mommy, I'll do the abortion. I want to have my free life. Her mother's face lit up with a smile. Good, my child. First thing tomorrow morning, get ready. We're going to the hospital for the procedure. As they left the room, Rita turned to Clara and begged her not to go through with the abortion. Please, don't do this. Mommy is just pushing you to do it, but Clara was resolute. I have to do it, Rita. I want to enjoy my youth, have sex anytime. I'm addicted to being with men, and I don't think I can do anything about it. Rita continued to beg her sister. But Clara refused to listen. I'm going for the abortion. I won't carry a baby at my age. It's shameful, and my classmates will laugh at me. Rita sighed, resigned to her sister's decision. Okay, if you insist. I wish you good luck. The two sisters went to bed, each lost in their own thoughts. The next day, Clara and her mother arrived at the hospital for the abortion. Clara was taken to the room where the procedure would take place. But as the doctors began the abortion, Clara started bleeding seriously. Despite the doctors' and nurses' efforts to control the bleeding, everything proved abortive. They gave Clara different types of injections to stop the bleeding, but it continued to flow until she became severely short of blood. As they searched for a blood donor, Clara's condition worsened. Before the blood could be released, Clara's body gave up. The doctors and nurses were shocked, saying they had never experienced such a complication during an abortion. Mrs. Thompson, who had been waiting anxiously outside the abortion room, was summoned by the doctor. We're sorry, madam, the doctor said gently. We did everything to save her, but there was a complication during the abortion. Your daughter has passed away. Mrs. Thompson was speechless, her eyes wide with horror. How come? How possible could that be? My own daughter died? Doctor, you have killed my daughter, she shouted, her voice echoing through the hospital corridor. She grabbed the doctor's neck, but the nurses quickly intervened, prying her hands off the doctor. Mrs. Thompson fell to the floor, crying furiously as everyone left her alone. She wept uncontrollably, her mind racing with thoughts of how she would tell her husband that their daughter was no more. All because of her selfish desire to avoid shame, she thought, her heart heavy with grief and regret. Mrs. Thompson arrived home, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She broke the news to her husband, Mr. Thompson, who wept and cried bitterly upon hearing that his daughter had passed away. It's all your selfish desire that led to her death, Mr. Thompson accused, his voice shaking with grief. If only you had listened to me and not forced her to have an abortion, our daughter would still be alive. Rita, who had been watching the scene unfold, couldn't hold back her tears. I warned my sister to stay, but she didn't listen to me, she sobbed. Now she's gone, and I miss her so much. The family's grief was palpable as they mourned the loss of their beloved Clara. After some hours, they made their way to the graveyard, where Clara was laid to rest. As they returned home, Rita couldn't stop crying. She missed her sister terribly, remembering the good times they had shared before the incident. She wished she could turn back time and wake her sister up again, but death was irreversible. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, on the other hand, were consumed by regret. They regretted not allowing their children to live a free life, hiding them from the public, and forcing their beliefs on them, Mr. Thompson stood up, his eyes red from crying. "No matter what, let this be a lesson to us," he said. "Allow your children to feel free, to associate with whoever they want, and never force them to be something they're not. Everyone is born differently, and we must respect that." As they continued to mourn the loss of Clara, they couldn't help but think about what could have been if only they had given her the freedom to live her life as she wanted. As days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months, Rita's stomach began to grow. She was carrying the pastor's child, a constant reminder of the pain and shame she had endured, but despite the circumstances, Rita's parents, Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, were overjoyed when she finally gave birth to a bouncing baby boy. They welcomed their handsome grandson into their home with open arms. Mr. Thompson was especially thrilled, having a son in the house for the first time. He was grateful to Rita, thanking her for giving him a son who would inherit all his properties. Mrs. Thompson, too, was happy to become a grandmother, and together they held their grandchild, beaming with joy. 2 years passed, and Rita's parents decided it was time for her to return to school. They took care of her little child, giving Rita the opportunity to continue her education and build a better future for herself. Rita was grateful to her parents for their support and love. She threw herself into her studies, determined to make a better life for herself and her child. As she walked through the school gates, Rita felt a sense of hope and renewal. She was ready to start anew, leaving the pain of her past behind.